Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And as we move forward as a society in this country, we're seeing more and more and more what? Outward censorship of our past. The culture war has gotten so absurd, it has made its way into the arena of adult cartoons. What was once edgy is no longer acceptable. What was once mocking stereotypes is no longer allowed in large platforms, even if such material which is racially motivated was made in a sense of irony and sarcasm, especially in the case of the Boondocks, which I believe was one of the most underrated series of quite some time over at Adult Swim. Those not familiar with the Boondocks, man, if you haven't seen those, despite the fact the third season, I believe the episode that we're talking about that they pulled, although they may have pulled multiple episodes, is from the third season. And I do remember watching the Jimmy Rebel episode and thinking, man, how are they getting away with this? But at the same time, the Jimmy Rebel episode was actually making fun, or satirizing, if you will, an actual racist country artist that was around back in the day and did sell records. So again, why are we sanitizing history, especially history that was meant for an adult audience? And of course, we have what happened to Apu and the Simpsons. We're going to briefly discuss that, although we've done several videos on that. There you had, a very positive Indian character that, sure, there were stereotypes there, but correct ones. If you're going to if you live on the East Coast, and it's not just the East Coast, by the way. I've lived in Texas, too, and you see it all the way around. It's just like when Asian people sometimes come over here, they'll open up a restaurant, okay? Whether it be, Chinese takeout or sushi, etc., or a combination, they're all over. These people openly speak, their native tongue. And growing up in upstate New York or right outside of the city, if you're going to tell me gas stations, delis, Dunkin' Donuts, franchises like that were not run by people from India, you would be a liar. Not every single one, but it was a good stereotype to say, hey, this person's part of the community. And what did you have with Apu? You had this hard-working family man who was successful, driving sports cars, who was religious, moral. Can't have him anymore. So we're going to talk about this stuff. We're going to talk about where it got pulled, because another big thing is, as people more and more pull the cord, right? And a lot of people don't have cable. I haven't had cable for over a decade at this point, really. It's all these streaming services. And the streaming services are then acquiring, right, these old properties that really they owned anyway, because Viacom, these big corporations that have consolidated power for all these years, already had a part of, right? But then they're the ones subletting it, so you no longer get South Park, for instance, on Hulu, but you get it on HBO Max. And by the way, there's a glimmer of hope with South Park being one of the few things that can satirize reality in real time and say things that you're not allowed to say anywhere else. And that's why animation is so important. And that's why we're doing this video. However, guys, I got to warn you, we're talking some harmful content here. Okay, and we've been fully demonetized on this platform. Make sure you're thumbing the video up, subscribing, and sharing. And maybe, hit Team YouTube up and say, hey, this guy's been demonetized for 6 months now. He appealed 5 months ago today. And he did it on air, and there's still no response about his channel. That's why I need your support. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Big donors. I do want to shout out the anonymous donor that started it off with $100 yesterday. Thank you so much. We're a week behind because, as you guys know, because of you, I was able to escape New York. I am now in Iowa. Guys, I feel better when I wake up. I feel better when I go to bed. I still have quite a bit of work to do to unpack a little bit more. I'm kind of getting settled in. Got to go back to New York, get my car, then I'm coming back. And that's why you want to be subscribed to Rockfin. ROKFIN. Make a free account because we're going to start doing big things with Rockfin as well. Make sure to check out the documentary films. They're all free in the playlist section while I'm here. And I think that they are absolutely important. Okay, let's get to it. Adult Swim quietly retires a number of offensive animated TV episodes. Nobody is safe. Now, I was never a huge Aqua Teen Hunger Force guy. They had the movie too. It had a huge cult following. But late 90s, again, when Adult Swim was coming up and things like Robot Chicken were becoming a reality, in the early 2000s as well, it was an outlet for kind of like this subversive, offbeat humor you weren't going to find anywhere else, right? And one of those episodes, Shake right here, I believe, Fryman in the hizzy with the shizzy. And I think he's bitten by like a black, not a real vampire, but, something like that. And he obviously becomes extremely stereotypical. I barely remember this episode, but I'd seen a bunch of them, right? I remember I liked the Brood Witch episode. At the same time, we're going to act like it didn't happen? Are we going to act like there was no humor or, art in there? Now, the story of Jimmy Rebel is a little bit more important to me because the Boondocks by Aaron McGruder was sort of based off of this cartoon strip that McGruder had done for years. And he didn't even think he was going to get a second season. He thought they were going to pull it right away. And it actually did become a cult success, so much so they were actually doing 2 more seasons and with McGruder at the helm because he left over differences in the 3rd season. Now, I don't know whether this is because of the Jimmy Rebel episode, but the Jimmy Rebel episode is hardcore. But, again, there's a bunch of these episodes, especially with the Boondocks, that are racially charged. You know what else they're charged with? Talking about 9/11 possibly being an inside job. Talking about the Bilderberg Group. I don't agree with everything Magruder has to say politically, but as far as people that had a large, somewhat mainstream audience in the wake of 9/11, he was one of the few people that used art to speak out. That's why art is important. Can we not spam? Who's the spammy? Yeah, we're going to have to spam you right out of here. I've got no whatchamacallit. Let's just hide user on this channel. Sorry, guys, we do it live. MF Doom's in there. Thanks, MF Doom. Shout out to MF Doom. So they're gone. A number, and this is going to continue. And I know people are going to go, well, look what they did with Dumbo, and I get it. But again, I wouldn't have done that with Dumbo either. So if you don't know what happened with Dumbo, obviously the Black Crow characters were, stereotypical black people back in the day. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it was right. But if you can't leave that there and put it in a contextual situation where you say this is from that era, and in that era, this is how the media and other people portrayed those of color. You can't rewrite history. And when you try to do so and sanitize it, you do everybody in humanity a disservice. What you can do, is write the future of humanity. You can push forward. That's important. But can you do so by sanitizing things? I don't think so. So where's the hope at? Well, I didn't do a full review of the pandemic special with South Park. There were parts I liked, there were parts I didn't. But at the same time, they were able to get away with things such as Token, Token black character. Now, it's got to be introduced almost 20 years ago on that show, right? Close to it if it's not 20 years ago on that show. And him being shot by police in this situation after they've been defunded, that they're the teachers at school, and obviously playing on that, but that he was shot and it was COVID related. And they had to quarantine after that. You couldn't get away with that on anything else. Now, one of the other things that you couldn't get away with back in the day, and even today when the media wants to hype it up, is daring to show a physical depiction of the Prophet Muhammad. And anybody who's lived through the hysteria of the war on terror knows this, okay? But prior to 9/11, prior to the war on terror, they had done a super best friends episode where all these religious figures were the super friends, right? The DC character's a parody of that. And in there, no one had a problem with the depiction of Muhammad. Late night, you can still catch it every once in a while in syndication on, local TV stations. It still gets played. Nobody's outraged, right? Now, what I do like is that South Park harkened back to that and snuck it in. And props to my buddy James for showing me this. But this figure I'm in circle right here, this blur, that's actually the Prophet Muhammad next to Jesus, right? I'm pretty sure that's the Prophet Muhammad next to Jesus. I'm pretty sure that's the one. But there's, a bunch of, I think Hare Krishna's in there. There's a bunch of them all there. And, yeah, it is the super best friends. You can make that out. And good for them. And to me, that's basically a fuck you guys. We're going to continue to push the envelope. So on this large network, they're like, we're going to sneak this in here because there's a lot of parallels between the fear right now of COVID-1984 and the censorship that's taking place that did take place during the war on terror and we never got back. Do you see the parallels there, guys? The parallels are extremely real. That's the truth of the matter. And once again, with Hank Azaria saying he'll no longer voice a poo no matter what the producers, etc. say, guess what? They quietly dropped a poo years ago, but nobody noticed. And I'll tell you what, I didn't notice. You want to know why? I haven't watched it in 3 years. And this is my favorite show of all time. Just so everybody knows, when I was a young man, I want to say 5th grade, was when this started to go mainstream. The T-shirts, it was after the Tracy Ullman show, the Simpsons Christmas special was the biggest thing out there. Adult cartoons really didn't exist at that time, okay? And me as 10, I get it, it's not an adult cartoon, but it definitely was aimed at adults, and it evolved, with me as I went into middle school and high school. And when I graduated high school, I wanted to animate The Simpsons. I didn't know I was going to get into graphic design or video. I was drawing because those were the tools that were available to me. I got most artistic in high school. I wanted to go to the Art Institute of Philadelphia, all these things. And I loved this show. And up until a few years ago, I still catch the Halloween episode, the Treehouse of Horror. I'll probably catch that this year, but that's all I've seen in the last 3 years. I still plan on binge watching the stuff. Politically relevant, hilarious, don't agree with it all, but has done some very, very smart things. And it really pains me to see not only them taking this radical left political stance in the media lately, but then also, culture shaming and getting rid of characters. It's nuts. And I'm hoping that the Boondocks still goes on with these 2 seasons, despite the fact that John Witherspoon died. He was the grandfather figure. Because, again, it's so important. Let me say that again. It's so important to have diverse views that push the envelope. And it is ever more hard to do in a mainstream setting outside of animation. So when they come for animation, you better take note. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. It's still a little echoey in here. I'm not sure how the audio is coming in, but I watched one of my videos yesterday. I was like, damn, I don't know if I like that audio. I might have to play with some of the settings and maybe put up some more sound foam over on this side. But things are coming along. By the way, Whitney Webb is coming up early. We're not going to have her on video. Apparently her internet is still out. But Whitney Webb, she'll be on in about 90 minutes live. We're going to be talking COVID 1984, Operation Warp Speed, the deep state, Donald Trump, and everything in between. She's got her own YouTube channel. She also writes for The Last American Vagabond, among other things. I love having Whitney on. I'm really excited about it. Make sure to thumbs it up, subscribe, and share if you're not to get that alert. Ring those bells on notification or just star the damn page. Check We do it several times a day here. The documentary films, all free in the playlist section. I encourage you to check out Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, especially if you don't know about 9/11. If you're under the impression that Islamic terror is behind that event, you are wrong. You are horribly mistaken. And that's why we have the Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, rising right now, and Shade the Motion Picture to tell you what's going on. Guys, couldn't do it without your support. We're harmful content apparently here. I don't know if they'll ever review my channel, but the fact of the matter is, despite me showing you the documentation, telling you the truth, going over mainstream articles, citing my sources, admitting when I'm wrong, I'm thinking at the end of the year, I'm going to do the top 5 or 10 things I was wrong about, because there's several things out there that I was completely wrong about. From Harvey Weinstein going to jail, to, the outward militarization in New York that did not happen because of COVID 1984. Sure, we got a little soft stuff, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I can admit I'm wrong, because we're human beings. And if I was going to get everything 100% right, I wouldn't be a human. And if you think you're 100% right, you're not thinking for yourself, because we're all fallible. I love you guys. Remember, you can also check me out on rockfin.com. That platform is going to be huge soon, and we're going to have some really great stuff once I get back with my car. Love you guys. Thanks for all the support, and I will see you all on the flip side.